This is the Nerdy Things Podcast. This podcast contains strong language, adult themes, and poorly developed ideas. We apologize for nothing. Listener discretion is advised.
Why Kevin James is a terrible sitcom star.
The Nerdy Things Pod is a part of the Dark Universe?
Tom Cruise flies planes. Chris Pine has a penis.
All that and more in this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the Nerdy Things Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin, joined as always by Jules. Hey, Jules.
Heyo.
And Tim. Hey, Tim.
Yes, joined sometimes now by Tim.
Mostly of the times.
Yeah, I already heard some of your keyboard clicking, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy.
Tim's back.
Well, I put new batteries in it for extra loud clicking.
Most keyboards don't take D-cell batteries.
No, this takes the little, the little mini car batteries. What do you call those things? They got a little spring on them. You know, they sell them at Home Depot, though. Yeah, it's big.
Nice. So, what a good week.
Right?
I can't wait to talk about the main topic this week, which is going to be Wonder Woman. But we have a ton of nerdy news to get through first.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us today for this episode, and this is like one of your first episodes, we do some nerdy news topics for the week, some stuff that we saw that we think were interesting, and we just talk about them and let you know what they are. And then we're going to jump into our main topic a little bit later, about halfway, and we're going to talk today about Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And despite the fact that we're doing a movie this week, we don't always do movies, but this has been a really great run for movies.
Right. First off, I want to say thank you to everybody for following us and liking and all that stuff on social media. You can find us at Nerdy Things Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, at Nerdy Things POD, Nerdy Things Podcast on Facebook and all that. Go like us, go follow us, go share our memes and all that, because they're pretty funny. And we're pretty funny guys, just so you know.
Speaking of funny guys, I actually just started listening to a couple of other podcasts. Backseat Directors and Big Screen Breakdown. Pretty decent podcast.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we had some interaction with them on Twitter as well. And we'll get into some of their thoughts on Wonder Woman later on. So if you want to tweet us, let us know what you think about the podcast. Let us know if we missed an article that you were really hyped about and we didn't talk about. Go ahead and tweet us, message us on Facebook, whatever. You can email us as well, nerdythingspod@gmail.com. We have a website, nerdythingspod.com, where we post all of our YouTube videos that we make, clips that we make, the links to the podcast. We have a bunch of nerdy stuff on the front page. It's pretty cool. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/nerdythingspod, where you can help us out financially and get more of us talking, get more of us saying some stuff. I think you, Kevin and Tim, y'all did a short little video after y'all saw Wonder Woman.
And that's exclusive to Patreon for now, or actually, I believe by the time this podcast comes out, it will be available just as sort of a teaser for everything. But things like that will be exclusive to Patreon first.
Yeah, awesome. We have that. We have a few clips. I did a Doctor Who talk on our Patreon for our patrons, and yeah, go ahead and check that out and all that stuff. So if you can't do any of that, at least please go ahead and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever else you can leave a review. I don't even know. Apparently there's Stitcher reviews too. I didn't know that.
Fantastic.
But, you can leave us a review.
Write it on a bridge.
Yeah, just take a picture of it and send it to us. We'll take that too. That'd be awesome.
That's fine.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Tweet us a picture of you vandalizing on the bridge and talking about nerdy things. So go ahead and leave us a review, especially on iTunes if you can, and we'll read them on the show. So here's one by Shabadoo99, and it says nerds and all exclamation points and caps. They cover all the important nerd culture topics, and they really hone in on the ones they like. They are a fun group to listen to, even if my nerd POV is a bit different than theirs. Funny hosts and a passion for the subject make this a winning podcast.
Very nice.
Thank you, Shabadoo99. And I really like how everybody that comments is very literate and very good at writing. It's super cool.
Shabadoo.
So that's all I got. That's all I got for right now. Do you want to get into
Shabadoo-be-doo.
Calm down, Adam Sandler.
Oh, shabadoo-doo. Stop looking at me, Swan.
Shampoo is better. It cleans the hair.
No, conditioner is better. It goes on second, makes the hair smooth. Stop looking at me, Swan. Hey, can I make a comment before we start nerdy news? Because I missed last week.
Sure.
Oh, God.
I don't think Kevin properly conveyed what a bad weekend Memorial Day was for genital jokes. It was much worse than you made it out to be. There was so many genital jokes, both in adult Baywatch and in semi-kids Pirates, and none of them worked. Like, none of them. They all fell flat. I'm not a man above a good genital joke. Enjoy them from time to time, but none of these floated. No pun intended with all the water there. They all sank to the bottom of the sea. It was awful. So I just wanted to say that I don't think Kevin kind of conveyed how bad it was. If you're going to go the genital route, genital joke route, at least make them work, please. Otherwise, you embarrass yourself.
No, you know what, Tim? You've got it right. Like I do like a good dick joke. When it crops up unexpectedly and you just kind of ram it home, it can work. But when it doesn't work, stop trying to make it work.
See, case in point right there. When it works, it hits hard and it's really funny. When it
just falls flat, what are you going to do with that?
So, anyways.
I don't like a flaccid dick joke either. So that all I got from that was that, Tim, you listened to our podcast, and thank you. I appreciate the listen.
I'm a loyal listener. If I weren't a co-host, I would probably be a patron. For all you potential patrons out there, $1 a week. It's really all we ask.
$1 a month.
$1
a month.
$1 per month. My mistake.
Whoa, that's even better.
For pennies a day, you could feed a co-host for a podcast.
You can put
that's all it takes. It's pennies a day, folks.
Kevin.
And someone like Kevin can eat an extra meal. And if you're the type of person who's on a dollar menu budget, have one less 4-piece nuggets from Wendy's and let us have one more. That'd be great. Thanks, guys.
This is a bad tact to take, because if they are a patron, they will see the video and realize I don't need another meal a day.
Everybody could use another meal a day. Come on.
All right, what happened this week?
What did happen this week?
Nerdy news.
At 6:00.
We have a lot of stuff that is about movies and TV and all that, and I have two things that aren't really about that. Just to start it off, I guess, and just mention it because it is news. I don't really want to get into it because there's not so much to get into.
Jules, you never want to get into the things you bring up.
But then we do. It's
then
whatever.
Don't say you don't want to get into.
Because y'all don't care. I know y'all don't care.
No,
it's
maybe
cool. It's not a big deal.
Maybe we do. Maybe the listeners do.
Yeah, we probably don't, but it's worth saying anyways.
Probably not. But what do you got, Jules?
You don't even have an iPhone. iOS 11, they're revamping the podcast app on iTunes and for Apple products and all that. It's going to be easier. It's going to be easier to find shows that you like. It's easier to display your show, I guess. It's going to have like a featured section that's going to have all your shows that you listen to, but then all the shows that other people listen to and some popular ones. And that's kind of where they fall flat a whole lot on discovery. You can't really discover a whole lot unless you know the name of something or you know what you're looking for on iTunes podcasts, but they are revamping it, making it a lot better, and they're putting some search the search bar in there is you're going to be able to search within your podcasts or throughout iTunes. And there's some cool little features that they're doing to kind of keep up with all the podcast apps that are out there right now and that are better. I still use the iTunes Apple podcast, but I know there are other ones that are better, and they're definitely taking a step towards that. And it's never been revamped, or I don't know, it probably has been revamped a little bit, but not this big and not this much. They're really focusing on podcasts in this next update, and that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
And kind of pertains to what we're doing.
I can't wait to see what that means for us. I find it interesting. You just said you still use the iTunes podcast app. I actually still use Rocks, but I hear that there are things that do other things like computers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know what Lux is, but okay.
He's referencing how primitive he believes that some of the Apple programs are.
Yeah, that's what I
That's
thought.
pretty
to
much it.
other
You know what?
programs.
There are so many other programs that fill the niche, but I really do hope that they revamp this and bring it to the up to speed so that people who don't use other apps, my parents as a great example, will have an easier time using things like this and bring more people to podcasts. That's definitely not a bad thing.
I've discussed this before. Podcasts are Apple things.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, the podcast
Yeah.
is named after the iPod. So you should be going to iTunes to get your podcasts. That's just
You
how
should.
it is. They should make the app better. And
But
it brings me to a lot of things that I read and saw on the WWDC this week, which is Apple's really biggest event of the year. Some of the stuff was really good. I mean, the stuff that they showed was really good. The updated iOS is always really good, both for your desktop, laptop platforms and your mobile platforms. The stuff that it's doing on the iPad is really cool. The new iMacs, I mean, they are exceptional personal computers for people who want everything in one box, who aren't, builders and tinkers and that kind of stuff. They're easy to use. The new versions have exceptional screens. The new one that they're selling for $5,000 really is super powerful. So they're hopefully getting back on board with people who are doing video editing, serious, creation and stuff like that, which was always their bread and butter. But none of what they showed this week was revolutionary. Even their pod speaker, I think that's what they're calling it.
Yeah, their new
Yeah,
speaker
which is,
or whatever,
competing
same
against,
thing.
the Amazon Echo and all those. It's an incredible product. I mean, really, some of the features they have are unique to Apple, and I'm sure it will work phenomenally because most things that Apple produces work really well. But it's $350 and it's 3 years too late,
right.
And this is why Elon Musk needs to helm Apple, because it goes to show the talent that they have on that campus at Cupertino is tremendous to create exceptional things, but no one is driving the innovation anymore, and it's kind of sad.
It's good work, but you're right. It's not innovative work.
No.
But it's interesting that you talk about how podcasts are an Apple thing. And that they should be the ones to do it. But there's so many other people that have done things to podcasts, to forward podcasts. It's to me like George Lucas. He come up with Star Wars. You have all these other books and all these other thoughts and other things in the universe. And then George Lucas goes back and rewrites Star Wars. And I think Apple's trying to recapture some of that. I just hope that they don't screw this up like the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, because I think they know that audio is the next medium. I think video is now. Video, video podcasts are a thing. Vlogging's a thing. YouTube's a huge thing, and that's for it right now. But there's a lot of, new audio apps that are going to be going out. There's one that I'm using called Anchor. That's kind of like a small, short podcast blog sort of thing. That's pretty interesting, and a lot of people are leaning towards audio because of the passive listening and the things you can do while there's been a ton of studies that say like people are constantly listening to something and they want to capitalize on that. And I think focusing on podcasts, however late it is a good idea for them, and it's going to be pretty cool to see what happens because now even more I'm talking to the audience. Your reviews are going to matter a whole lot more because we could pop up on some sort of featured thing or associated to, or this person listens to this as well, and that means a whole lot more to be integrated into this whole new Apple Podcast app, whatever.
Well, I think it's just so easy to listen to podcasts on the drive to work or to listen to podcasts while you're at work if you have an office job. They frown on it where I work because I have to interact with customers, and so I got to take my headphones off every time. Bit of a pain in the ass, but it is it is where things are now. We may have to get into video once self-driving cars are more of a thing, but we'll deal with that then.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of radio in general. I've talked about this before. I wanted to be on sports radio. That was my dream, as nerdy as that is. So when I'm in the car, I'm always listening to something. And I'm less enthused by a lot of local radio. So I'm listening to Spotify If I'm going to music, I can choose whatever I want. And I listen to some podcasts, and I think audio is a great medium for being productive while you're doing other things. There is a whole generation of people now who work at their computers and do work exclusively at their computers, remotely, at a coffee shop, or at their office. And a lot of those people are helped by listening to something else, whether it be music or whether it be a podcast like ours. So there's definitely huge value in online audio content, no question about it. And I think Apple gets that. And I think they've just always been the de facto place to get podcasts, because that's where people started getting their podcasts. So if they're looking to improve how people can find podcasts, great. All the better for us content creators, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So we did end up talking about it. Cool. The next thing that I have here is Polygon is announced this morning, I think, and we're recording this Wednesday, that they are launching a few new sites for gamers and different sort of games. They're launching the Rift Herald, which will cover League of Legends, the Flying Courier, which cover Dota 2, and Heroes Never Die, which will cover Overwatch. And all three sites will not only focus on the esports scene, but they will cover the entire game, competitive, cosplay, pro players to patch notes. And yeah, it's going to be a new thing that Polygon's doing. Polygon's a pretty good gaming website and multimedia, whatever.
That's really cool. I hope that helps esports and makes them more of a viable business. Yeah, because I don't even think they're profitable, with air quotes, at this point. I think it's more money going in than money coming out.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that, because I haven't kept up with esports. I generally keep up with the entertainment world, box office numbers, TV ratings, things like that. But when something falls on Spike TV, which is, I think, where you get a lot of esports, if I'm not mistaken.
At the moment,
yeah, some of it's on ESPN.
Is it?
It's growing.
I also kind of boycott ESPN as a hardcore sports fan, so we don't even get into that thing. So if it's on ESPN, it's definitely off my radar. But I wonder, because I don't have any knowledge of it. Like, do they get ratings? I mean, are they better than MMA? I mean, how is that?
I don't know if they're better than MMA, because I think that MMA is more of a base audience, but they do get ratings, and they do have enough that their sponsors are starting to see some uptick from it. So
it's definitely gotten bigger in the past couple of years, and it's definitely entertaining. I've watched some shows of I'm not a big fan of Call of Duty, but I watched like the Call of Duty show, like whenever there were two teams against each other, and they made it very interesting for somebody watching. And I don't really necessarily like the game, but the commentary is fantastic. The stories they set up and the behind the scenes production before the actual game and during the game is really cool and really awesome to watch. And they're putting a lot of time. A lot of people are putting a lot of time into this, and it looks like a lot of money too. So hopefully that soars, and it's soaring, and it's doing a ton better.
Yeah,
so,
well, I think it was last year. One of the guys that Tim and I work with was actually betting on esports matches. Yeah. And he didn't follow them. He had no idea what any of it meant, but he's still placing bets on it.
Is he like a hardcore gambler or something?
Yeah, he just wants. No, he's a really good guy.
Itch. You know what, though? That's what'll cause it to take off. Genuinely, though. I mean, fantasy sports is a lot of what drives casual viewership. It's, I think, again, I've grown up a huge sports fan, and when I was a kid, part of it was because I think the game was better. The NBA was huge. Baseball's always been big. But it was huge. Everybody was watching the NBA, and of course, everybody loved football. But now, the football ratings they're down a little bit the last couple of years, but football ratings and the TV deals that they get are astronomical. It's off the charts.
Oh yeah.
And I think the biggest reason why is because I know people who, as adults, learned about football. I'm not going to say that they're knowledgeable about football, but they're knowledgeable about fantasy football, and they watch the games, or at the very least keep up with the games as a result of their fantasy football league. And these are people who never would have been following it to the degree that they do without it. So fantasy sports is a huge driver for revenue, viewership, all that kind of stuff. So if people are getting involved in fantasy esports leagues, that will drive that home. The other thing is there a movie coming out about esports? I feel like I've seen something like this, a movie, or maybe even a documentary or something like that. Have you guys seen that?
There might have been a documentary in the works or something. I'm not too sure, but
I'm sure there's a documentary. I haven't heard anything really, but I'd be interested to see a movie about that. That'd be
if
neat.
there was a movie about it, that would be another thing that would bring it to the mainstream focus. I think if nobody's working on that, somebody should be working on that. You know?
Absolutely.
And that would do wonders for that niche, to bring it a little bit more to the forefront.
Yep. Speaking of movies and big money and all that, a little bit of a sad note. Did you guys hear about the theft of $200,000 worth of Star Wars memorabilia?
Yeah.
In California?
That's crazy. That's
not
ridiculous.
good. No bueno.
No, absolutely. I mean, stolen over the course of like the last 2 years and sold to collectors by a well-known collector. Who does that?
That's horrible.
That's kind of.
This is all stuff
That's
that
really
like
bad.
people know. There's only 1 or 2 of these in the world. It's not like you're gonna get away with this.
Right. Well, these are the people that steal Tom Brady's jersey after the Super Bowl, or go and break into a player's house and steal a Super Bowl ring. It does not like you're not going to get caught if you're trying to resell this thing. It's going to happen. You
got to keep that and just know that you have it and you're never going to gain from it. Or, I don't know, you got to already have someone lined up that knows that they're buying stolen goods.
Yeah, it's a low thing to do. I mean, stealing in general, let's be frank, is kind of a low activity. But doing something like this where it's, treasured items is, it takes a special kind of person to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to steal something like that, you got to put more thought into it. You got to like break into Tiffany's at night, but don't go for the jewels because that's the obvious thing. You go for the chandelier. Sorry, I was channeling Dwight from The Office for a second.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that was something horrible that happened. What else? Anything? Speaking of horrible, I want to talk about Kevin Can Wait because that's a stupid show.
All right.
And it's horrible. Oh, so Tim, you brought that to our attention this week.
I just couldn't believe it.
What's going on with that show? Yeah, so why don't you inform the audience kind of what, because I know no one's keeping up with Kevin Can Wait.
If somebody's watching it because it got renewed. I mean, I looked at there's 2 sitcoms this year that just stuck out to me that I haven't watched a single episode of, but like just seeing the commercials, they stuck out to me as like, could this be a more stereotypical sitcom? And one is Kevin Can't Wait with Kevin James, and the other is Joey Tribbiani's new show, where he plays a dad. And there's like a gender role reversal. His wife is at work, and it's man. You know what I mean? Like, come on, this isn't funny anymore. Like, this is like a lot of houses in America. This isn't flipping things on its head anymore.
Right.
So that alone.
Send the kids to work, have the parents stay home.
Right. And him just going to class, like trying to play the I don't get it dad. I'm like, dude, Joey, you're so much better than this. But then Kevin Can't Wait is Kevin James playing Kevin James. And I just couldn't be more, I know he's Adam Sandler's buddy. I couldn't be more tired of Kevin James and what he does and his silly hat that he wears when he's not in TV shows and movies. I just couldn't be more tired of it. And so he's got this show. He plays a dad, I think, to a wife that's way hotter than him. Whatever. We've seen that part of his show before. And
we've seen that everywhere.
And then I read this headline that now that Leah Remini, if that's how you say her name, is out of the spell of the Scientologists, that she's trying to work again. And apparently she made a guest appearance on the show. I guess
she played a cop or something. Yeah.
So he's a retired cop, I think is the gist of the story. And she was his former partner, and he goes back to work a case with her or something. And apparently when the season's over, he goes back. His wife, who was a school nurse, decided that she couldn't be a school nurse anymore for some reason. So she's quitting, and I think they're going to get separated because she's just not on the show anymore. She's getting written out.
Yeah, I mean, something.
Yeah, so now it's going to be
he
and Leah Remini and his cousin or brother, Bobby Valentine, or whatever Valentine, who's on all of his TV shows with him and everything with him. So essentially they're, getting the gang back together from King of Queens. Why? I don't know. How does any of this make any sense? How do you take a show that runs for a season, you renew it, and you say, hey, everything that you liked about that show, we're going to change it because we know you're just watching for Kevin James, right? So we're just going to change it to something else, which you kind of liked before. So we'll see if that works again.
Tim, I think we've misread this horribly. While you were talking, it hit me. This is genius. Season 2 is going to be a procedural crime drama. He's come back from retirement. He's the only one that can get into the mind of this maniac criminal who we find out was his wife.
Bum. I'm still not interested in that.
No, neither am I.
Yeah.
But actually, it's funny. You mentioned Matt LeBlanc. Matthew Perry was in the news today recently, or last couple of days, because someone asked him if he wants a Friends revival reunion show. And he said no.
Why did he say no? Do you know why he said no?
I don't.
He said no because he had nightmares.
Well, he said something like that. He said that he didn't want to make it shitty. He didn't want people to not care. They left it all on a good note, and they left it on a high note. Friends is this highly revered thing that everybody loves, apparently, and he doesn't want to come back and be like, hey, we're going to do Friends again, and nobody cares, and that's scary for him. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people that care, and he's just being hard on himself. But I really don't.
No, he's right and he's wrong. People would care, but they would fuck it up.
I love Matthew Perry. Like, I think he's ridiculously funny. Even the movies that he was in, I really enjoyed a lot of them. I think he's a great physical comedian. Love Matthew Perry. It was just humorous the way he answered the question. He's like, I literally have nightmares. I wake up with nightmares about doing a Friends revival and no one caring. And I'm like, wow, that's deep-seated insecurity, and that speaks to his past in a major way, if you know anything about him.
Yep.
Of course people will care. Would it be good? Probably not, mostly because half of the cast is mostly fake now, and nobody wants to look at that week after week. But of course people will care. I'm kind of on board with his decision, but I just thought the reasoning was bizarre and peculiar. He did go on to say that he doesn't want to do traditional TV comedy anymore. He has ideas. He wants to write a TV comedy, but he doesn't think anybody will do it. Because essentially he said he has some really darker kind of real world concepts that also as a bonus happen to be funny. So not your traditional sitcom. Bravo. So not, I would like it if they would let him do it, but he's probably right again. Nobody will pick that up.
Yeah, that's
not a network thing, more a Netflix thing.
No, but I mean, there's enough streaming out there that there could be a home for something like that.
Maybe. I mean, he's doing an off-Broadway play in London right now that he wrote. Good for him. I like that he's being creative with his life, and I like that he's off the sauce, and that his house is actually an open place for people to come to a sort of rehab. So he's doing a lot of good things with his life. I'll give him that. But I just thought that was weird. I don't want to do a Friends reunion because I have nightmares.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So I want to talk about this Sony thing that they're releasing clean versions of R-rated movies, or, you know, I don't know if it's just R-rated movies or PG-13 movies, but they're releasing clean versions of these movies. They're editing them so that they won't. Let's see what there's like a ton of titles here: Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, Goosebumps, Grown Ups and Grown Ups 2, Hancock, Spider-Man, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights. A ton of movies, 50 First Dates, that they're just releasing clean versions of. And right? Why?
This is, okay.
Why not though?
But why?
They're gonna heavily edit these.
They show them this way on TV, right? Like, isn't this essentially the TV edited version, like what's going to be on TBS? Or
sure. So watch it on TV.
Well, if you're somebody who is of a mind to want to watch cleaner versions of shows, why not release it? Like, I guess I've seen some outcry about this, especially I think Seth Rogen said something.
Sure.
And I get it. Mm-hmm. Like, I probably wouldn't buy them. I don't think it's, true to the art of what people originally created. But if people are consuming them this way anyways, and they just want a way to have them on demand, what's wrong with it?
I mean, I get it, but the thing is, most of the other things are going the other direction. You've got Batman versus Superman being released, and then after they're releasing the R-rated version with more blood for some reason, and they're doing the same thing with other things. Like, why tone it down? Why not make what you wanted to make and then let it be that thing?
Yeah, so it's going to be on cleanversionmovies.com, I guess, if you want to check it out. And according to the site's frequently asked questions section, they use the broadcaster airline versions of these movies to remove graphic violence, offensive language, sexual innuendo, and other adult content. And there was a trailer that featured a scene from The Amazing Spider-Man where Andrew Garfield is shot with an electrically charged bolt that sends shockwaves through his body. The clean version only shows the shooter in the helicopter take aim, and Spidey tumbles to the earth below, removing the violence from the shot.
I'm not sure that that's better because my brain is going to make him get shot and die in that. But, you know, like, here's the thing. I had, my wife had a friend whose mother would go through and edit movies before letting her watch them. This is a real thing.
Whoa,
she
no way.
really did this. She'd
Wow.
go through, and when it came to scenes of people holding hands or kissing or anything like that, she would completely cut it out of the movie. And I'm not saying that this had a bad effect on this girl, but she's batshit crazy and has a lot of intimacy issues that I'm not going to get into.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I'm not saying that this is what it is, but you start editing things down that weren't meant to be that way, and suddenly you've got Bruce Willis leaning out of a skyscraper saying, "Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon." And there's no reason for that.
I like that better.
Yeah, I don't know.
Me too. This is like Phoebe Buffay's mom not letting her see the end of Old Yeller and other such movies.
Exactly. This is exactly the same thing. I'm sorry. If none of those movies that were just mentioned are truly graphic, horrifying movies, watch them. Let your kid watch them. Watch them yourself. If they make you uncomfortable, don't watch them. There's nothing that's going to be edited out that's going to make you feel any better.
What if whenever we get into this big podcast network that we're going to be in a year or month or so, and they were like, "Hey guys, we like what you do. We like the Nerdy Things podcast, but we're going to have to edit your stuff." And it's like, whoa, what? That's not how we meant it.
Yeah, but if it was the only way to consume it and they said, "We're just going to edit your podcast and censor you and then that's it," that's one thing. But this is just an alternate version that they're giving people the option to buy. I guess I understand what you guys are saying. I get where you're coming from. I probably wouldn't make the decision to buy the clean version either. I would just wait until my kid or whoever I was worried about was old enough to properly view the programming. But
properly view Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, hey, listen,
dates.
who am I to judge someone else's moral compass and what they think is right or wrong?
Right, yeah, that's
but
true.
I don't see what's wrong with putting it out there if there's a demand for it.
No. My problem isn't necessarily that they're editing this or that they're but my problem is really that there's just too much chaff. There's too much shit that comes along with trying to buy a movie or a book or a comic book nowadays, because you've got the clean version and you've got the DVD version and you got the Blu-ray version and you've got the widescreen and then you've got the one where they all sing in Latin and then
if you buy it at this one place, then you get some extra content,
and then you got a cover
whatever.
for this one that's different, and you got, like, comic books do it all the time where you get variant covers and you got 8 different covers of this one comic book that you can get. And oh, look, this one here's blank so you can have someone write on it. And I don't like this is video games too. You the Batman Arkham games, you buy the game, and then if you buy it at Walmart you get a different suit, and if you buy it at Best Buy you get a different suit, and if you buy it at GameStop you get a new car, and
Yep.
I just want the game. I just want the movie. If you're going to sell the movie on Blu-ray, have an option for the clean version. It should be a button. It shouldn't be a separate thing that someone, not me, but someone is going to spend more money for. Because someone is going to buy it by accident or buy the wrong one by accident because they got confused and get all upset and start suing people. And that's not how the world should work, but that is how the world works.
Kevin doesn't like marketing.
I don't. I just, if you do something well, you should be rewarded for it. If you do something well and then you do the same thing 5 times and call it something different, you shouldn't be rewarded for it.
I've said this a million times in the last year, especially watching the political climate and a lot of different things. Guys, we live in the capital. The Hunger Games are coming. This is just where we're at in our society. So, just go with it. Nothing we can do.
Dibs on Caesar Flickerman. Boom.
Got him.
Oh,
Speaking of suing and all that stuff, so the Dark Universe name, I guess, is a hot commodity these days, and people want to use it, and people are suing each other for the Dark Universe, whatever.
yeah.
It's like the third week
really
we've talked
don't
about
care.
this name.
It is, because it keeps evolving.
I know.
Yeah.
But like now there's the lawsuit. Last week it was that they have the Dark Universe from Universal for their monsters, and you have suddenly for some reason the Justice League Dark being called Dark Universe.
Yeah, apparently that they're saying like, we've had that the whole time. We had that planned for so long to use the Dark Universe name, and it's like, I guess so, okay. And then they just want to battle it out for this. You can easily change this name. It's not something complex. The Dark Universe, how long did it take to come up with that? You can come up with something
I feel
else.
like this is a bunch of 8-year-olds playing war. I shot you. No, you didn't. I got my shield. Yes, I did. My gun can shoot through shields.
Guys, this is money, is what it boils down to. I mean, there was an Apple, excuse me, production company in England, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that did music, and I think they actually had something to do with the Beatles, if I'm not mistaken. But when Apple Computer came about, there was a lawsuit over the name, and because they were different industries. Do you know how many times that other Apple has re-sued Apple Computer for, like, kind of in a fringe way violating the rights of their agreement? It's because there's money to be made from the suit. How many times have Samsung and Apple gone back and forth suing each other over the same patent? Samsung claims they had it. Apple claims they had it. And somebody wins. And somebody, A, wins money, and B, wins money by the other person not being able to do what it is they want to do. So this is a fight over money behind the scenes. It really has nothing to do with the end product. You're right. They could change the name. Wouldn't make one iota of a difference. But there is an extra slice of the pie to be had for one or the other based on who wins in the courts. So that's why they're doing this, and they will continue to do it.
Both of them have us talking about it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just increases their brand. There you go. It's worth more because people are more aware of it.
I'm gonna make a new podcast called the Dark Things Podcast.
You should get director Doug Lyman to come on with. Oh no, wait, he left Justice League Dark because of scheduling conflicts, because he's trying to get
he wants to
Live, Die, Repeat off the ground.
Oh my god,
with
that movie.
Tom Cruise, which I do need to point out, Live, Die, Repeat as the title for a sequel to a movie is only funny if the title of your movie is Live, Die, Repeat, which it wasn't. The title of the movie was Edge of Tomorrow, but by the end, they had remarketed and rebranded that movie Live, Die, Repeat.
I loved it.
I thought it was a fine movie. I thought it had some problems.
It was all right.
I'm going to be dealing with that in my own way in the next couple of weeks. I've already talked to Tim about this. I'll have more information for everybody later, but...
All right.
Let's put it this way, guys. There's going to be a big reason to become a patron.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Hopefully many more to come after that, too. But in the meantime, I'm just waiting on a couple of parts for my computer and maybe a green screen to come in. But
oh, wow.
Live, Die, Repeat.
Kevin as Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Edge of Tomorrow. Not a terrible movie. Maybe, you know what? It is prime for a sequel. I would not mind seeing a sequel to it. But I do think that is an excuse for Doug Lyman to get out of the DCEU.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too promising.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
But he also just probably wants to get on board with Tom Cruise, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Tom Cruise still flies high.
He does.
Yeah. So it's probably just a money play on him, because Tom Cruise is hot right now. He's been hot for the past few years. He's put out a ton of movies. There's a new movie that's coming out that has Tom Cruise in it. Right?
Yeah. So Tom Cruise is flying high, but Tom Cruise can also fly real low, to get under the radar like he's doing in the American Made trailer, which just came out this week.
Yeah, American Made, which is pretty interesting. It looks pretty cool.
I'm really excited about that. Like, we've said before, I love Tom Cruise, the actor. I think this is going to be a fun movie.
Why is he always flying? Is that his thing?
Because he's always high. I don't know. That's just speculation.
There's always a plane. There
is, because he thinks planes are cool.
Does he have a plane thing?
I mean, you got to keep in mind, Jules, this is the guy that rides a motorcycle, right? And drives a motorcycle to the studio, but then has someone turn it around for him so that he can come out and look cool driving away and not look like a douche turning his motorcycle around. This is someone who's worried about looking cool.
Yes. I need Tom Cruise as a friend. That sounds so cool.
He always does look cool, though. I mean, come on. And this guy hasn't aged a day in 30 years.
Nope. I mean, he's coming back for Top Gun 2, but I think he's the only one that we're going to recognize.
Of course. And who cares? Because that's all you need.
Top Gun 2 Maverick.
Yeah.
And the thing that I like about this American Made trailer is that so Tom Cruise's kind of reascension, over the last 10 years, let's call it, has mostly been in the action movie realm, which is fine. Mm-hmm. He's great in those. But this is kind of getting more into that. He's playing like a real character, kind of, I think meant to be funny in certain ways just because the story is outlandish, but it's Tom Cruise being more of a serious character, playing something that's got some teeth to it. And I think that's cool. It's not just wham bam action. This is Tom Cruise acting, which he's very good at.
Yeah, he's not just, at cruising altitude.
We're just going to keep playing this, aren't we?
All right. Yeah. American Made trailers, super interesting, super cool. That came out this week. Top Gun 2 Maverick just announced the name of it. He's coming back. We already talked about that. I think last week or the week before. Anything else that really caught your eye this week for nerdy news?
Watch the interview that Tom Cruise gave when he's talking about Maverick. Because it's awesome. It's just quintessential Tom Cruise. It's ramblings of a madman. He's just like, yeah, we're going to make Top Gun 2 because I said so. I got a name for it. Yeah, I got a name. You want to hear it? Yeah, it's Maverick. And it's almost Trumpish. Boom. He's like, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be the best. I'm not going to tell you anything about it, but you're going to see it and you're going to love it. But I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Like,
we're going to get the best cameras.
Yes.
It's going to
It was Tom Trump. It was so cool.
That's pretty funny. But no, I mean, there were a couple of other things that happened this week, but I got nothing that really needs to be brought up. Suicide Squad 2 is starting filming next year. Yay, I guess. Okay. Manu Bennett's been pushing for a Deathstroke spinoff. Yay, I guess. I mean, this is another thing where I don't think we need all of the information. I think the history that people have imagined for that character on Arrow on the CW is better than anything we could see. And Starship Troopers has a sequel that apparently everyone, and by that I mean nobody, has been clamoring for.
Didn't they do Starship Troopers too?
I think they did, but this is an animated sequel that gets
then I won't
Casper Van Diem back, and I don't care.
Sorry, William.
Oh, and on the anime front, Cowboy Bebop is getting a live action series, I guess. Whatever. It's pretty stupid.
Great. And we're so excited.
The show, yeah.
Because everything's better live action, even anime.
It's fucking stupid. No, they're doing.
Tim, this is not ammo for you, no matter what.
This is awesome.
They're doing one of Death Note that looks kind of interesting. Death Note's getting a live action, whatever, for Netflix, I think, and that looks kind of interesting. That might work, but other than that, stay away from live action animes, please.
Right?
Don't do it.
Murder at the Orient Express trailer was really good.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great cast. Yes. I think that's going to play really well. Like, I love the individual actors in there. So I do think that's going to come together well. It's just a good concept. I think it's going to be good.
I'm sure I'll see it.
Everything on paper says that it's going to work.
Yeah,
so
it looks well acted. It looks well cast. We'll see. I'll be excited about it.
And Nintendo talked about Pokemon.
Nintendo Talk. Tim's Nintendo Talk.
Yeah, they talked about Pokemon. I don't know anything about Pokemon. Apparently, there's a game called Pokken. I think that has something to do with Pokemon. I don't know.
Pokken tournament.
But the last 2 weeks, Nintendo did do their Test Punch. Your ability to, if you have a Switch, download a free copy or partial free copy of the game ARMS, their new IP, and play it. And the reaction was largely positive. I don't think this is going to be like Mario or Mario Kart. Like, I don't think this is going to be on that level, but it's going to be, by all accounts, a very good, very entertaining game. And as per usual, when E3 hits next week, we should probably spend some time talking about E3 next week. It's going to be a big deal.
A little bit. Yeah,
definitely.
Nintendo is scoffing at the normal thing again. They're not doing a live presentation because they don't feel like
cool.
It's a wise use of their resources, which I buy. I mean, most of the time those things are just kind of big production letdowns anyways. So they're going to do their pre-recorded Nintendo Direct type thing, and then for like 3 extra days, they'll be having behind the scenes from the Treehouse broadcast on their website or on YouTube that you can watch, where you're really seeing the games and the things that they showed in the presentation in depth. And of course, people at E3 will be able to, experience and play some of these things. So yeah, Nintendo, cool.
So yeah, definitely in the coming weeks, the next 2 weeks probably, E3 is going to be a huge thing. Gaming is going to be a huge thing. There's a ton of developers that are, pushing for that. There's a ton of speculation about what games they're going to talk about. There's a ton of will they, won't they show so-and-so. I know Microsoft's doing a lot of Scorpio stuff, not too much else. PlayStation's going to come out pretty heavy, and there are a lot of game developers as well. And there's going to be a ton of stuff, a ton of speculation right now as we talk, but we'll definitely get you the facts and all that stuff probably next week or on our Facebook, Twitter, and all that. So be in the lookout for that at Nerdy Things Pod on everything. NerdyThingsPod.com as well.
It's time for this week's main topic.
I want to talk about Wonder Woman because I've been waiting.
Absolutely. Jules, did you happen to see Wonder Woman this week?
I did. I saw it last night, and I have some feelings about it. So do we want to do some non-spoiler talk and then spoiler talk, or do you just want
a little bit of non-spoiler talk to start? And then we can get into the spoilers.
But I can't hold it in. I'm so excited to talk about it.
I know, but just hold on for
let's do the first couple minutes.
Okay.
Just general reactions, I guess. I really enjoyed it. It was super cool, super amazing movie. It did have a little bit of weird things that I wasn't too into, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But overall, it's a fantastic movie for DC. I love the new Justice League intro. That was super cool.
Which had Green Lantern.
Which was interesting. Yes, I agree. I noticed that.
And it's an homage to the Justice League animated series, because they were basically in the same poses. But I just want them to announce the Green Lantern, because that's obviously what's going to happen. And give us the Green Lantern. I think we still only have 6 heroes. He's the 7th. It's not rocket surgery.
Yeah, so that was super cool seeing that in the theaters.
I loved it. I thought the movie was awesome. I'm just going to say that. I think this was one of the best, real superhero movies I've seen in a long time.
All of my problems went out the window. This was a great movie. I don't have many complaints about this movie. I think this was the best DC movie I've ever seen. And I think
Are you
it did
including
exactly.
The other Batmans?
I am. I think this did exactly what it needed to do.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. Christian Bale Batman included.
I don't know if I'm on board with that, but okay.
It was entertaining. It made Wonder Woman seem like this superhero, and it was just fantastic. It highlighted her good, her sense of direction into I want to defeat evil. I have to defeat this ultimate evil, because that's my goal. That's what I was, that's what my people are made for, and I have to do this. And no matter what, she was fighting for the good guys a whole lot of the time, all the time. It was fantastic.
Right. So, I mean, this is spoiler free, so we're not going to get into most of it yet. But
sure.
This is, Wonder Woman, Diana of Themyscira, who we know from the trailers, lives on this Greek island cut off from the rest of the world, and then Steve Trevor shows up and hilarity ensues, and she's introduced to the world of man, and you get this real fish out of water thing while she's trying to be the best hero she can and save the world. Really, that's about all I can say about this movie without gushing and spoiling everything.
Yeah, let's just get into the spoilery parts.
Yeah, I mean, I give this 2 thumbs way up. There's nothing else I can give it.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy, it's not Guardians of the Galaxy. It was a Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy 2 was a better movie. There was literally no complaints I had about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. There
Yep.
are minor nitpicks that I can come up with about this, which I want to talk about. But Guardians of the Galaxy isn't a pure superhero movie. It's a comic book movie, but it's really a space comedy. And so it's different. If I'm looking at Superman, Iron Man, Thor, the Avengers movies, Captain America, those are like pure superhero movies. It's
Yep.
been a few years since I've seen one that I thought was this good. I mean, just compelling to watch, funny, entertaining, great, unique action sequences. I mean, I think I'd have to go with maybe the second Avengers movie, maybe the first one. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen one that I left going, wow, that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Captain
Mhm.
America or Iron Man if we really want to get deep into it. Cause,
Yeah, and can we talk about how well it did in the box office? Because it's the most money made by a female director ever, I guess. And that's super cool. That's super amazing, and it's fantastic, wonderful, whatever. It's amazing.
great for Patty Jenkins, great for Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm really, really on board with the fact that they went with a female director, the fact that it's a female star. I mean, Chris Pine is obviously a well-known actor and has a following, and that appeals to women as well in a certain way. But he's definitely second fiddle to Gal Gadot. He is her supporting character, and this is carried by females. And I just think that is really cool that there is a generation of women growing up right now that get to see this, that it's a female star that not only can they enjoy, but that no guy can go to this movie and not be ashamed of having gone to a female movie, and not just because she's gorgeous, but because she's a cool character that you get behind, that you root for, and that you think is awesome, and that's just cool. There's a lot of that going on right now with, Rey as being essentially the lead character in the Star Wars. It's a really cool time if you have a daughter, it's a great opportunity for her to see what's possible in the world,
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So kudos to that.
That word wonderful. Awesome. So let's get into some spoiler talk before y'all leave, before, go see it, whatever. But remember to go visit us at nerdythingspod.com, nerdythingspod on all the social media sites. And we have a Patreon, patreon.com/nerdythingspod, where you can get some extra content from us. And we're going to have a ton more stuff. There's a lot of audio, some video maybe soon. And go check us out and go think about supporting us. And we would really appreciate it.
Very nice. So full spoilers.
Wonder Woman full spoilers. It was super cool how there was by the end of it, there was a lot of slow motion, a lot of slow-mo scenes. And by the end of it, I was kind of like, all right. But all of them looked super amazing. And the stuff in the very beginning, what all the Amazons were doing was so cool to look at.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
Claire Underwood is a badass.
Right?
All right.
Yeah.
Fast that was.
That was awesome. I loved the training and the fighting, and Diana as a small child sort of motioning along with them. Like, you could see that she was into this well before she was into this. I think was absolutely amazing. Like, this was her destiny, and she fulfilled the fuck out of it.
And you can't hold
And
it
if
back. It's in her being. And as much as her mom tried to suppress it, it's just who she is. And that came out really, really well. That you just could not stop her from doing what she was meant to do.
Right.
Yeah, and if you didn't follow any of the Wonder Woman stuff, or you didn't know anything about this character, it did a very good job of showing, like, oh, she's really into fighting. Is there something more to her? What's going on? What aren't they telling you? What aren't they telling Gal? And it's just a really cool narrative if you don't really know what's going on, and that plays very well. And you don't have to watch all the other DC movies to know about this movie, and it was still a fantastic movie if you've never seen any of the other ones.
No, I mean, the fact that this was for the most part standalone, the only way it really connects is with the picture that she gets delivered by Wayne Enterprises at the beginning, and it's the picture from World War I that happens in the middle of the movie, and she starts basically remembering the story of how she got to that picture. it worked for me, and I think that the pacing of this movie was superb. I didn't feel like it was dragging at any point. I felt like it was slow, but I felt like it was building.
Yeah.
Like I didn't complain about that. I definitely had a moment where they were at the camp when they first meet the Native American, and I was like, there's been not a lot of action up to this point. It's really been like a nice meandering, slow movie, but I loved it. It showed so much of her character to do that.
It was engaging. That was the thing. Like, I don't mind it when movies move slowly as long as they keep you engaged. And this did that the whole time through good storytelling. For people who aren't interested in or don't know about the Wonder Woman lore, you're right, Jules. They really did a good job of revealing certain parts at the right moment, so that they kept you in suspense and kept you engaged in that part of the story. Yeah. The comedy was very, very good. And then when the action came, it was, big payoff, big worth the wait. The whole fish out of water thing, we see that, we've talked about it on podcasts, on most movies that we see. But this one was done in a different way. It was really unique because she is knowledgeable. It's not like she's seeing all of this for the first time without any background. Like, she knows about man and the anatomy of a man. She knows different languages. She, to some degree, understands that there's different cultures. It's just interacting with it the first time and being a little naive as to the social constructs that she needs to observe, and coming at humanity from a pure standpoint. Why are you lying? Why aren't you risking your life for other people? All of these, pure virtues that we would love to have, but that have been, muddled and beaten down over eons. She still has that innocence about her, but she's not totally naive. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to even put into words how they walked that line. It was great. It really worked so well. Just a scene back and forth with her and Chris Pine when they're on the boat and they're discussing sleeping together, and his reaction to what sleeping together means. And the thing that was so funny is she comes across everything like, well, I don't want to sound ignorant. I know what you're talking about. But yet she's so kind of just naively humble. She doesn't understand why sleeping with her would be a big deal. And he's like, well, I'll do it if you want. And she goes, I'm okay with it. Why not? It's just like
their interaction. Their interactions within the whole movie was probably the most human I've seen interactions in like a superhero movie. This just felt like my friends, whatever, they're they, won't they, whatever, and them just kind of discussing something like that. And through the whole movie, their chemistry was fantastic, and the way it just kind of slipped out, it just rolled off. Their acting skills are superb, and it was just a fantastic pairing with these two. I want to read some tweets from the backseat directors. We mentioned them a little while ago. They tweeted us their thoughts on Wonder Woman, and some more tweets as well. At the BD Podcast, Wonder Woman was a beautiful movie on many different levels. There is a real depth in the Diana Prince character. She is the kind of superhero this generation needs. Her physical strength does not define her. It is her incredible determination to restore peace to the hearts of men. It's her own pureness of heart, I think that's what they said, and true intentions that guide her on her quest. The DCEU has scored big by adjusting the formula of the darkness of their comic stories and adding the right amount of comedy and laughter. Not a perfect movie, but one that I'll gladly watch again and again. Kudos to Patty Jenkins, Gal Gadot, and DC Comics. Job well done. Yeah. We have another one from Big Screen Pod, Big Screen Breakdown. We talked about them as well. And they say, I agree to all that, even though we're probably too late. On the tweet, Wonder Woman was awesome and fresh in every way. Exactly what the DCEU needs. So those are some tweets. If you want your tweets read on the podcast, I guess, go and tweet us at NerdyThingsPod and answer our questions. We'll let you know.
But I think this was DC doing what DC should have done from the start. They gave the property to someone who gave a shit about it, who made a good movie. This was a true superhero movie, but this was a movie about, I don't even know how to describe it, because a lot of the success from movies recently for superhero movies has been that they are a superhero movie that is such and such a movie that happens to be a superhero movie. But I think they found the right formula and embraced that superhero aspect and made that work. And it was wonderful.
Well, they took their time. We talked about how it moved slowly and engaged you. I cared about Diana by the end of the movie. And I cared about and believed the relationship that she had created with Steve. It wasn't like they just put two people together that are really hot and said, well, they're going to be attracted to each other. And by the end, they were. It wasn't sexualized. It was a genuine connection between two people that were also clearly attracted to each other, but you believed it. So then when it comes to the end and one has to make a sacrifice, you are genuinely overwhelmed at that point. It's not like he's just an ancillary character you don't care about. You care about the sacrifice that he's making and the motives behind it, and you care about her reaction to it. And you understand how that unleashes something in her and then brings us to the next phase of the movie. I mean, everything was carefully choreographed to make you care about what happened, and that resulted in what happened next. And it worked, and it made sense, and it made you feel. And that's unique for a superhero movie, to really make you feel like that. Like when we saw Baywatch, Kevin saw it, they put these two hot characters, Zac Efron and the girl from San Andreas, together, and they had no chemistry, but we were supposed to believe by the end that they were just going to be together because they were both hot, right? And they were, in the same space, and that's what happens.
Yep.
It totally fell flat. All of their jokes back and forth fell flat because there was no reason to believe that they were building any chemistry based on the way that they were interacting with each other. In this, every step of the way, you saw a normal, real relationship developing between these two people. And it works. That authenticity is what works.
Definitely putting it in the real world World War I scenario, and the story and everything made it very real. And you saw a ton of the agony, the destruction of war, of man, and all that stuff. And that definitely added to the, oh my God, it's making me feel this is an actual thing. Definitely putting it in that place was a good move on them for making us feel like you were just saying. That just adds to everything else.
I cried during that no man's land scene. When she climbed that ladder, and she was so distraught talking to the woman in the trenches. And she's so passionate talking to Chris Pine about how they have to save the village that's being held hostage. And she's so frustrated when no one responds. And then she climbs that ladder alone, and she runs across that field of death alone. And just watching Chris Pine and the other three follow, even knowing that they're going to die, because they are. There's no two ways about that. They're going to die. And she just, distracts everyone, and then everyone else realizes it and runs up and starts fighting with the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I was in tears, literally in tears.
Yeah, the superhuman element of her makes what happened possible, but it's her courage that inspires her team, and then the entire army that had been placed there for a year doing nothing. I mean, trying, not, for lack of effort, but accomplishing nothing, becoming more and more scared. It was her courage that inspired them to get out there and do it. And that's, again, that authenticity, that courage is what made it so relatable, because it wasn't just a superhero ability. It wasn't just that she could do something amazing. It was her human courage to go above and beyond herself for other people. And Jules, that was a great point. I mean, just showing those people and their agony. She has such an empathy about her character, and Gal Gadot does a great job with that too. I will say, for a lot of times, there's an easy way about Gal Gadot. A lot of times when women that beautiful smile at someone else, it's almost like they're doing them a service. You know what I mean? But like when they win that particular part of the battle, people are shaking her hand and she's kind of smiling at them. It's a genuine look, and that's unusual. And the way she shows empathy as well just comes across with such core emotions. It would be really difficult to imagine somebody else playing this character and having this movie do as well as it did.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some interviews she's done, and she's just generally a really good person. And, that was probably just very easy for her to pull out of her bag of tricks, just that empathy, because she probably has that, and she kind of leads that sort of life in her, real, aside from acting and all that. And she is very beautiful and fantastic in general. But yeah, it's, I couldn't picture anybody else doing this. I mean, she just did a fantastic job. And going forward into the extended universe, I can't wait to see what they do with Wonder Woman. I really hope they don't mess up all the stuff they did for Wonder Woman in this movie. I really wish her good that they don't, I don't know, do something that'll, whenever somebody else gets a hold of her, when they're just gonna mess it up. I really hope they don't do that.
Do you guys know a bit about her backstory, Gal Gadot, like her real life person?
No.
So
she's like Israeli.
Yeah, she's an interesting chick. I mean, first, she's Israeli. You don't really see many Israeli women in mainstream media in the US especially. But so she was like Miss Israel or whatever when she was 18. Competing for, Miss Universe, I believe, was the specific line of competition that she was in. But after that, she went into the Israeli fighting forces for 2 years. Like legit, not just as a poster child. She went through the Israeli fighting forces training, which if anybody knows from watching Don't Mess with the Zohan, it's serious business. But I mean, Krav Maga is one of the most brutal fighting techniques that exist, and that comes out of the Israeli army. And so she did that of her own volition, and that's amazing. And she gets out of that, and she went to law school. So she's like super smart, and she ends up marrying a guy who she's still with, she's had a couple of kids with, who's a millionaire. They own hotel property, like super expensive hotel property in Israel. And then somebody came to her about acting in the Fast and the Furious movies. It wasn't like she sought fame. Like this wasn't, her end goal. She's done a lot of unique and varied things in her life that just because she's an exceptional person. It's really very interesting how she got to where she is right now.
And
that's awesome,
succeeding. Yeah, it's freaking crazy. And she was even pregnant for some of the reshoots, right? I think I saw something that she was, they kind of modified her suit a little bit for some reshoots because she was like 5 months pregnant at the time. And
that's great.
I mean, how over the top amazing is that? That's awesome. So we talked a whole lot about what's good, what we love, that we love the movie, of course, but what are some things that weren't over the top for you? Some things that were like, I'm not too sure. I have a few things that I thought of while I was watching it, and I'm curious to hear what y'all thought.
I didn't have much. I only had that I really don't understand why Chris Pine was speaking in English that was accented by German in the heart of Germany.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That was really the only complaint I had.
I think languages throughout the whole movie were all kind of weird because there was a lot of English when there shouldn't be. But I mean, for about 20 minutes, I think I was like, why aren't they speaking some other language? They should be speaking another language here.
Yeah, but I mean, for the viewing audience, like that's such a nitpick on my part, and I totally get that. Yeah. But give me something. Give me an explanation.
Any and all issues I had with this movie were mostly nitpicky, but yeah, the language thing was one of them. I mean, all of the Themysciran's accents are a little different, all of the Germans actually are a little different because a lot of those are American actors. And the one guy, who played who you thought was the main bad guy sounded just like Hans from the Mighty Ducks. Like if you closed your eyes and you heard Hans say, "Teach them to fly, Golden," it would sound exactly the same way as this other guy talking. It was very, very humorous to me. But yeah, the language thing was certainly interesting. On that note, the Themyscirans, right? If I'm saying that right, they all have names like Antimaniaknos and Ukanunaniana and things like that, right? But yet the main character who we all have to relate to is Diana.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I mean, nitpicky thing that goes back to the comics, but I mean, talk about trying to make things accessible. Like her mom, her aunt, like everybody else has these ridiculously complicated names, and it's like, no, Diana, don't. Oh, okay.
A lot of the thing, or two of the things that I had a problem with were mainly with, female and male interaction, I guess, and the way she saw males, I guess, and the way they were kind of covering it up. I don't know. It's just a weird thing that I can see why people would be mad about. One thing, there was a lot of hovering, and it seemed a little awkward for me at the time when I was watching it. Whenever they're talking about like male anatomy, or whenever she sees him naked and stuff like that, there was a lot of lingering on those scenes. And for me, sitting next to a bunch of little kids that were watching the movie as well, it just seemed a little awkward and a little too long on that. But that's me getting nitpicky again. Her, like, them alluding to his junk or whatever, and them sleeping together. It was a funny scene,
right?
And some interesting scenes, but
dick joke
for me,
that worked.
It did feel like,
right?
Yeah,
totally
it
worked.
made you uncomfortable because of other people bringing their kids to a movie they haven't yet vetted to see if it's good or bad or worthy of their children.
Well, I think
it's not a kids movie.
Held on to it
I've seen this a lot. Like there was Kevin, there was like a 3 or 4 year old in front of us, right?
And there was another one behind us.
Yeah, who was getting a little antsy by the end too. But I was listening to a podcast recently where one guy was talking about bringing his 3-year-old kid to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'm like, no.
No.
This movie's not made for them, and that's fine. Like, I know it's a superhero movie and we want it to be for younger audiences, but this is an adult market. This makes the money it does because adults see this movie, and there's certain things that you have to do to make adults want to see it to some degree. And that is why you shouldn't be bringing kids under a certain age or developmental level to this movie. So I don't have any problem with those jokes.
Wait until you can buy the DVD Blu-ray 2-pack that's in widescreen, clean version in Yiddish.
Yeah, whenever Sony releases it clean.
Exactly.
Or whatever. But well, I don't know. I don't totally agree with that, I guess, just because the way they were marketing it to little girls, they were like, Wonder Woman, little girls want, to look up to this character. We want little girls to look up to Wonder Woman, but then they put that kind of stuff in, and it's just kind of mixed. They want it to be good for everybody, when in reality they are aiming for an older audience.
Well, it's the same thing with Iron Man, though. Like, so my nephew is 11 now. So when the first Iron Man movie came out, I mean, he was really little. But as he's gone on, he's become interested in these properties because Marvel is so huge, And I have taken him to movies over the years and stuff like that, and I would not let him see Iron Man movies. And it's not because I don't think he can handle the violence or, some of that stuff, but there's this, sexual predator nature to Tony Stark, at least in the first couple movies, that I wasn't comfortable with him observing, so I think you have to make those determinations for yourself with the kid that you're potentially bringing. But I think they do market the property to children. They want them to buy the toys, but I think kids can buy the toys, play the video games, watch the cartoons without going to see the movies until they're ready. I don't know that marketing necessarily invites you to bring your 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, or even 8-year-old maybe to that movie.
No, I mean, you can just raise the awareness of the fact that there is a powerful female superhero. Here you go, little girl, wear this shirt, get all excited, act it out. There's plenty of cartoons. You're right. You don't have to bring them to, especially, first weekend of the movie, 8:00 showing at a movie theater.
And I mean, I watched it last night, Tuesday at 5:00, and the theater was still full. I mean, that's ridiculous.
We were selling a lot, even the last couple days. Middle of the day in our IMAX theater, we were selling a lot of tickets. It was the buzz, as well as it did the first weekend, the buzz has increased, I think. If this were a different movie, if this, I'm just going to say it, if this were a male-led superhero movie and people hadn't been burned so much recently by DC movies, this movie should have done $160 million. And I think you're going to see that coming this next week and weekend. I think the drop-off is going to be far less than you normally see for a movie of this caliber. I think this is going to have more of a slow burn in its trajectory.
I think this is going to wreck The Mummy this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, movies normally drop off when they're this big. They normally drop off like 65%, I think is a really good number. If it did 100 million, I could genuinely see it doing 60 million this week. I might be wrong on that, but I could definitely see that happening.
I could see it doing that or more.
Yeah, just because I think people who didn't again, who weren't really on the hype train to begin with, are going to hear the reviews, are going to hear the positive reaction. They're going to hear skeptics like Kevin come
Yep.
out immediately after on Patreon.
I'm so sorry.
And go, wow, this was really good. So, and that's going to cause them midweek to go, hey, I got to go see this movie. And then next weekend, The Mummy or Wonder Woman. Let's check out Wonder Woman. I was bullish on The Mummy a couple weeks ago, and I'm less so now purely because I think it's going to be tough to go up against this movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that may be unfair, but that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
One other problem I sort of had with the movie was, I definitely love that this is a woman-centric film. It's made by a woman director. It's definitely showcasing the female gender and how amazing it can be and how they can lead this movie. But then in the end, sort of, she was, thinking about love and all that stuff, and it was definitely just towards the male lead. And I mean, I'm a feminist, and I can see where some feminists didn't really like that, because I've been reading some reactions to that where, and I had that too, where it was just like, yeah, she could have done they could have done some flashbacks and some thoughts about the love she had for her mother or for her aunt or something, but they definitely focused it and made it seem to some that her main ending power, where she can overcome Ares and all that, is because of the male lead, Chris Pine. And that just kind of felt like, no, to some people it could be like, no, you're definitely more than this. You're more than, what he gave you. It seems like he gave her this sort of overcoming power to defeat the big bad at the end.
But I think it was more humanity did. Like there were other things in the flashbacks, and I think it was his discovering the greater humanity, not just him, but all of humanity, and seeing what man can do and what man needs to fix.
That's definitely the overcoming and what they were trying to get across. But I definitely had that sort of vibe, and that's me being nitpicky again.
Oh, that's just because you have that thing for Chris Pine. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Listen,
yeah, definitely.
Man Crush Monday, Chris Pine, that guy's worth getting all emotional over, okay?
I agree.
But so here's my thing with that, because, again, I applaud this movie for being wonderful for women. I think it something like this happening is great for young women. If I have a daughter, when she's old enough, I will want her to watch this movie over and over again. I think love is a powerful thing. Love for the opposite sex, love for, whoever it is that you're into. That love is one of the most powerful emotions that exists. Your love for your parents is always there. Your love for your child is always there. And it's very powerful. But when you find that other person in the world that didn't have to choose you, that did, that's a really powerful thing. And I think that can unlock emotions that are different from other relationships that you have. But the thing that was cool about it is it wasn't just one way. It wasn't just Diana unleashing her abilities because of her devastation that her man, went up and sacrificed himself. Why did he do that? Why did he do a lot of the things that he did in this movie? I mean, yeah, he was definitely portrayed as being kind of a good guy, kind of an altruistic individual, but every step of the way, he was plotted on and inspired by her.
Yeah.
By his desire to protect her, which she didn't need. I mean, that was so cool. Like, how many times did he dive in front of her to try and protect her? Because that's chivalrous. Yeah. And I don't think that you can have, I don't think that feminism is exclusive of chivalry as well. That's just how I believe. But the fact that he tried it doesn't necessarily mean that she needs it. And she shows that over and over again. It was definitely a symbiotic relationship, and that he wanted to protect her. And then she showed that she didn't need it. She wanted to protect him. And then he goes and makes this ultimate sacrifice. And I think, what was the last thing he was thinking of? He wasn't thinking about his life and all that stuff. He was thinking about her. And that was part of, and then I'm getting emotional just thinking about that. I'm welling up in my chest right now, because he did that because of who he is as a character, but also who she made him and how he cares for her. So the fact that she returns that in kind, I think is beautiful. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I don't think that happens to exist exclusive of feminism. I think that shows how powerful she can be on her own because of who they made each other. I think that's awesome.
And I as a final note, I can't wait to see what bullshit excuse they use to bring him back for the sequel.
Oh, I really hope they don't do that.
Yeah.
Because that
my
was
God,
such a
that's
great
gonna be
moment,
crazy.
and it
Yep.
was such a great sacrifice. Don't sully that, because that ruins a lot of what was great about this movie.
You know they're bringing him back, though.
Well, he's Chris Pine.
I don't
He's
know.
awesome.
Yeah.
He appeals to women. He appeals to men. You know, it's just there's really nothing wrong with Chris Pine, but don't ruin it. Don't.
No, that's pretty much it.
And definitely the twist sort of at the end got me going again, got me ramped up for this final battle, and it was fantastic. It's a great movie. I don't know. It's just a good movie. Wow. What are we gonna give it? What are we gonna give it this week? What do you give?
I just want to throw out that the last final scene though was one of my few nitpicks, because you get into that where Kevin has talked about a lot before. Who's going to outpower the other person? You know, and all of a sudden this guy just has the ability to float and bend matter, but she's like having a duel of fisticuffs with him. You know, it didn't necessarily match up entirely. So my one, I think, biggest gripe was that final scene. I think they could have found a better way to pit the two against each other. But it was still emotional and it was still well choreographed. So
I think that just showed how she didn't, really know what she was capable of doing. And
yeah, because she was flying in the middle of that. So
yeah, I agree. But then that fast forwards to, again, how it's going to connect to other movies. She didn't pull off a lot of that stuff in Batman v Superman. You know, a lot of those powers that she learned and utilized at the conclusion of that movie didn't translate to, 100 years forward. Apparently she's still not using those things. I don't know. And
where was she in World War II?
Right, exactly. So these are things we have to fill in, and it brings, when Kevin was talking earlier about, how they're going to, or I think Jules was as well, how they're going to bring her in and continue to use this character in the DC universe. It's kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, with a different director behind it, with a different vision. Will it be able to be as successful under someone else? I don't know. We'll see, because there's definitely some problems that they created there with how it's going to fit into the rest of the universe, I think.
Sure. What are we giving it?
Triumphant fist.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Triumphant fist. I'm gonna say a 9. 9.5, I think. It was definitely an entertaining movie.
I'd give it a solid 10, really.
Now I'll give it a 9.5 because there was some small gripes, but because it's really hard to get a 10. But yeah, it was that close to perfect. It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, for me, it was a little, we were talking about how it was fairly paced very well for me. In like 2 or 3 points, it was just a little slow for me. Just, I'm not too sure why, but yeah. But 9.5, 10 is what the Nerdy Things Pod gives it. What do you give Wonder Woman? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with us? Are we wrong? What? Let us know. Tweet us at Nerdy Things Pod, and you can find us at Nerdy Things Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, nerdythingspod.com, patreon.com/Nerdy Things Pod. So next week we have something kind of interesting. We're not doing a movie because, we'll probably talk about some movies, but all the good movies are done for right now. I'm cool with saying that. Next week, we're going to do a episode all about our favorite heroes. I think it was episode 4 or something like that, where we did our favorite villains, our top 5 favorite villains, or the best villains, or whatever. We're going to do a heroes episode, and we're going to have a special guest from another podcast, which is going to be pretty cool. And go ahead and subscribe and stay tuned for that next Thursday. We release a new episode every Thursday.
Spoiler alert, I vote for Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman is in the competition now, yes, as of Tim said. We're going to talk about our favorite heroes. We're going to put them in a list. Hopefully we all agree. Maybe we don't. We probably won't.
I hope we don't.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that next week and stay subscribed.
Awesome.
I'd like to thank Adipsia for the use of his song Friends Don't Let Friends Go to TGI Fridays. You can find more of his music at adipsia.bandcamp.com. He just released a new album called The Stoic. It's available there. He just released a new song last night, actually, that you can hear on SoundCloud. It's Adipsia SA on SoundCloud. It's super cool. I listened to it while I was getting ready for the show. So
very nice, and thank you to the Bell Curve
called,
for some of the music.
How Good Is Hook?
And on that
How good
note,
is Hook? No. No, never.
Peter Pan, one of the greatest heroes of all time.
remember, stretch goal for Patreon. If we get 4 more patrons, we're going to do a Hook commentary. So make Tim happy.
Yes! That would be so awesome.
Pledge monies.
God.
All right.
Please, never mind.
Goodbye, everyone.
Later, guys.
Hi, this is Derek from The Wild Pitch, and I'd like to talk to you about something that's very important to me. My podcast, The Wild Pitch. Now, since you clearly don't have access to a skip button, listen to this.
Eat as many brats as possible.
And this. An in-home cat communication system that allows your feline friends to talk to you through a series of intricate bell rings and button presses. And how about that?
I imagine it would be about as satisfying as drinking orange juice after having a burrito.
Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, I don't know. Stare into the sun and you might hear it. It'll buzz in your ears.